What's going on, everyone? It's Matt Deegs here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm breaking down what I believe is an S tier heavy class build in Space Marine 2, built specifically around the new Heroic Heavy Bolter. This video is all about the build layout, the best perks for the Heroic Heavy Bolter, and how to pair them with the heavy class perk tree to get the most value in Space Marine 2. The Heavy Bolter is the Heavy class's core weapon, designed for sustained fire with a massive ammo pool and a fire rate that ramps up the longer you hold the trigger, making it extremely strong for horde control and consistent pressure. The heroic variant, Chains of Duty, changes how the weapon plays by rewarding gun strikes and parries. It also fully cools the weapon after a gun strike and increasing the perfect parry window, which allows you to stay aggressive and keep firing longer instead of backing off, something that the Heavy suffers with. So when you build into that playstyle properly, the Heavy stops feeling like a stationary turret and becomes a constant frontline presence. And that's the setup I'll be breaking down step by step in this video. So sit back, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, comment down below what you think of the Heroic Heavy Bolter, and guys, if you want to support the channel a little further, consider becoming a channel member. With that being said, let's hop into it. So let's begin with its stats. So again, this is the heroic version of the Heavy Bolter. It's right here. Again, you will have to have unlocked this. You have to buy it with points earned from stratagems mode. So if you haven't done that yet, guys, go play stratagems and then come back and buy this, all right? So with that being said, let's get into the stats compared to its Relic variants. Now, I also recommend, before we get into the stats and the perks and all that, I recommend for this build to truly work, you have to have fully maxed out your standard Heavy Bolter. Fully maxed out Relic. That way you're going to be able to have all the perks available, fully unlocked, and get the best for your buck. All right, so with that being said, let's get into the stats and how they kind of compare to the Relic version. So as we can see here, guys, firepower is 10, accuracy is 1, rate of fire is 8, venting speed is 2, piercing we have 4, range we have 5, magazine capacity is 450, and the headshot multiplier is 1.3. Now let's compare that obviously to the Relic, all right? So if we were to use Gathalimor Crusade, we're losing a little bit of firepower, getting a little more rate of fire, and 1 more venting speed. Now, I do have to say, the venting speed on the heroic version is quite slow, so just keep that in mind. It's slow because you're meant to parry. You're meant to throw those perfect parries, get those gun strikes, and boom, you have your gun completely cooled off, right? So keep that in mind. You're going to want to play a little bit more aggressive. Instead of sitting back like you would normally do with the Heavy, you're kind of in the fight, mid to close range, so that you can perform those perfect parries, and boom, you're fully cooled and you're able to keep shooting. But let's continue, guys. So again, you do get a little more magazine capacity, you do get a little more venting speed, you lose a little more firepower. However, you can't perform those perfect parries like you can with the heroic version. Big difference with all of these, okay? Another example here, guys, we have the Gathalimor Crusade Alpha. So this was beta, this is alpha. We're getting a little less firepower, way more accuracy, but I'll be honest with you guys, even though the accuracy is low on this, honestly, it's pretty damn good. I wouldn't even worry about that too much. Plus, there's other perks that we'll get into on the perk tree for the Heavy Bolter that you'll get accuracy regardless. So don't even worry about that. I wouldn't even look at that. Yes, you are getting an increased rate of fire, but that's very low, and then the venting speed is just a little bit higher, okay? Now, for this one, there's a big difference on the Feeling Liberation Alpha, okay? This is the Gathalimor Crusade Feeling Liberation Alpha. Now, as you can see here, the firepower, yes, it's a little bit lower, rate of fire is a little bit higher, but look at that venting speed. All right, so it's a noticeable difference. So keep that in mind if you're going for sustained firepower, sustained DPS, The heroic version will still be fantastic, but you gotta be a little more aggressive. You gotta be a little more close to mid-range so you can perform those perfect parries, those gun strikes, so that it is automatically cooled. If you're waiting around, yes, you pull out your plasma pistol or whatever secondary you have, pop a few shots off while it cools off, switch back, and you're good to go. But if you're looking for, pure fast venting speed and pure just firepower, unyielding firepower, you might want to go for the Illithid Liberation Alpha instead, right? I wouldn't worry about even look at this one because it's basically the same, right? So honestly, guys, if you don't want to do the heroic, this is a decent middle ground, not a middle ground, a decent side grade, I would say. But again, in my opinion, this Chains of Duty heroic version stands out, especially if you like using fencing defense types. Oh man, this one feels like you're wielding a fencing chainsword, but with a heavy bolter. It's nuts. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the heavy bolter as a weapon overall for the heavy. I much prefer the multi-melta or the plasma incinerator. However, I had a blast upgrading this, and I honestly, when I feel like just spraying and praying, this one's a fantastic gun. And what's even better is if things get crazy and you get swarmed, you got those perfect gun strikes, you got those perfect parries that come with ease. And honestly, guys, it's a fantastic weapon. But with that out of the way, let's get into the perk tree. Okay, so for my first perk, we have perpetual cooling. So weapon heating decreases by 10%. Again, the Chains of Duty, the heroic bolter, its venting speed is quite low, as we can see there. It's 2. So you're going to want to use perks that speed the cooling speed up, speed the venting speed, lower the rates of overheating. These type of perks will really benefit you, and especially really benefit this specific heroic version. So first one, guys, perpetual cooling, weapon heating decreases by 10%. Then we have contingency plans. So when your ammo reserve is less than 25% of your ammo capacity, melee damage increases by 20%. Okay, and then we have a few here. So we have a headhunter. So headshots deal 10% more damage. Now, you have to remember, at long ranges, you're not going to be able to hit those headshots. It's just not possible. The accuracy is just a bit too low for this. But again, you are using this weapon a little more mid to close range. It's a way different playstyle than you're usually used to with the heavy bolter, or even as a heavy, as a class in and itself. So headhunter, I put it on because you're going to be playing a little bit differently, closer range, mid-range, and you're going to be able to hit those headshots with ease. And trust me, guys, raining down headshots with 10% extra damage is definitely nice. And then we have increased capacity. The maximum ammo reserve of this weapon increases by 20%. Pretty self-explanatory. Now, this one's really good for those Minoris mobs, so perpetual penetration. Each shot penetrates one additional target. This is good for those mid to longer range type of deals where you see a bunch of Minoris and you just want to annihilate them. It's going to shred through multiple enemies at once. So perpetual penetration, fantastic perk. And then we have Adamant Hunter. So when your health is below 30%, headshots deal 25% more damage. So we'll be stacking that nicely with Headhunter. So 25 and 10, we're at 35 increase in headshot damage. All right, so pretty good increase right there. And then we have Heavy Precision. So while in heavy stance, maximum spread decreases by 10%. So this is where, I said don't worry too much about the accuracy. Things like Heavy Precision is going to help with that accuracy, and you're really not even going to feel it. At long distances, you might, but trust me, the way you're going to want to play this style of Heavy Bolter, the heroic Heavy Bolter, you're not going to be long range. Then we have Heavy Might, so while in heavy stance, you deal 15% more damage, and then we have another Heavy Might, while in heavy stance, you deal 15% more damage. So a blanket 30% right there. Moving on to the Relic perks, we have Discipline. when you have low ammo, you deal 25% more damage. So pretty straightforward, guys, but 25%, I could not let that slip. I wanted to get that boost. And then we have fast venting, so weapon cools 15% faster. Again, going along with that theme of increasing that venting speed because it is quite low, all right? And then for the last relic perk, we have Great Might, so damage increases by 10% against Terminus level enemies. And then for the actual heroic perk, we have Reinforce gun casing. So perfect parry window increases by 50% after a gun strike. The weapon is completely cooled. So this is where I mentioned earlier that it honestly feels like you're wielding a fencing variant melee weapon. It's fantastic. If you are used to fencing style weapons, then honestly, guys, this is the ranged weapon for you for the heavy class. Again, I still really like the Plasma Incinerator, the heroic version. I really do like the Multi-Melta, probably my two favorite guns, one of my two favorite guns in the game. However, this one is getting up there, and I actually really like it. I prefer melee, fencing defense type melee weapons. So this one fit really well with my playstyle. Again, perfect parry window is going to help you when things get up close. And then again, we do have that low venting speed, but yes, we have the perks that will help, but also it's forcing you to use those perfect parries and getting those gun strikes so that the weapon completely cools. So with that out of the way, guys, let's talk a little bit about the secondary. Again, you could really use anything. I prefer either the honorific Relic bolt pistol or the Relic version, just a standard one. Or honestly, guys, my favorite is the plasma pistol, and that's usually what I pop on. And honestly, it's a great 1-2 punch combo. When the heavy bolter is overheating or overheated and you're waiting for it to completely cool down, you just pop up that plasma pistol if you can't get the gun strike off, and boom, you pop a few shots off, a few charged shots, and you're good to go back to the heavy bolter. So a great 1-2 combination. But let's get into the actual heavy class perk tree. Okay, to start off, we have Restoration. So killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores 1 armor segment, and the cooldown is only 15 seconds. So again, guys, if you see here, there's no prerequisite for it to be a Majoris or an Extremis or Terminator, whatever. It's killing 7 enemies. Done, right? You can do that quite easily with this weapon, with the heavy bolter, very, very easily. You just aim for those Minoris mobs. You know, this can happen all the time in basically every mode you're playing, whether it's Operations, Stratagems, or Siege, and really any difficulty. So take advantage of Restoration. And again, we can't really use this one because it's for the Multi-Melta, okay? And this one's okay. So Auxiliary Ammunition, when your primary weapon is out of ammo, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores ammo reserve by 20%. This one's good too. But honestly, I really like this one. Keeps your armor economy high, and killing 7 enemies, guys, that's not hard to do. And a 15-second cooldown of 15 seconds is quite quick, so you can really farm these quite effectively. Moving on, we have Fortitude, so health increased by 30%. This is what I put on every heavy class. Honestly, in my opinion, guys, it's S tier. It's an S tier perk. 30% is no joke, and it really, really is felt in-game. Moving forward, we have Versatility. So after switching weapons, your secondary weapon does 20% more damage. The effect lasts until reloading or switching back to your primary weapon. Now, to be honest with you guys, I love this perk. You feel it. You feel that 20% boost. And this is a fantastic perk to put on because you're not always gonna have the chance to perfect parry and throw those gun strikes, thus getting the automatic cool for the for the heavy bolter, the heroic version. So there's gonna be times where you're gonna switch to your plasma pistol or whatever your secondary weapon is, and boom, you have a 20% increase in damage. So this perk, honestly, it's a fantastic perk, and I highly recommend it. Now, for the team perk, I have Bonds of Brotherhood. There's a few reasons I like Bonds of Brotherhood. So reviving a squad member restores them to full health. Now, there's nothing worse than going down in Siege mode or going down in Operations or going down in Strategy, whatever you're playing, and you get rezzed and your health is like, what, half, less than half. And you got to find like 2 med kits, which is impossible in Absolute. You don't want to waste your points in Siege mode. and very hard to find in stratagem, especially if you're playing hard, or there's a battlefield condition that, you know, stops you from finding medkits or stim packs. So Bonds of Brotherhood helps negate that because it brings you back to full health, thus allowing you literally, you know, just to find one medkit instead of scrambling for 2, sometimes 3, right? So Bonds of Brotherhood, guys, it brings you all the way back up. You pop the medkit, your mortal wound is completely healed, right? One thing I always say, you want to make sure that your mortal wound is cleared as fast as possible. So if you don't have Bonds of Brotherhood, unfortunately, you're going to have to look for at least 2 medkits to get that mortal wound cleared. If you have Bonds of Brotherhood, all you have to do is find 1, and you're completely cleared. So this is why I recommend Bonds of Brotherhood, especially if you're going to be playing Siege, where you're going to be wanting to go high level. This is a great one to help conserve your credits in Siege mode. And as for the next perk, I have Consecutive Execution. So it's pretty straightforward. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charge by 1, and the cooldown is 90 seconds. So this is, again, guys, like I say, is a fantastic perk to have on. A couple classes have this one in their perk tree, and it's a fantastic. If you're not playing with Secure Stockpile Tactical, then you're going to want to pop this on. If you are playing with a Secure Stockpile Tactical, I would say opt for one of the other two, because basically you'll be getting this for free. So don't waste a perk when you can have Adamant Will or Emperor's Protection, okay? But otherwise, if you're not, I would say run Consecutive Execution, because having Melted Bombs on repeat, Crack Grenades on repeat, and Recharge, you can't beat that. Then we have Field Adjustment. So Iron Halo recharges 20% faster, but its durability is reduced by 25%. Pretty straightforward. Last one here, guys, we have Brute Force. So when Iron Halo is in cooldown, range damage increases by 15%. And then for a signature perk, we have Conversion Field. So when your Iron Halo is active, all squad members within 20 meters regenerate ability charge 50% faster. So this is going to be good to support, you know, your tactical with the Auspex, your Bulwark with the banner, these type of, you know, perks, or sorry, abilities, and, you know, getting a 50% faster is going to be fantastic for the whole team, not just you. Then as for the prestige perks, we have Auxiliary Reload. So melee kills of extremist level or higher enemies restore your primary weapons ammo by 1 magazine. Then we have Indomitable Spirit. So while performing a gun strike, you do not lose control while taking heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back. The reason I put this on is because if you remember, guys, the perk that comes with the heroic version, perfect parry window increased by 50%, and after a gun strike, the weapon is completely cool. So it's forcing you to perform those gun strikes, and there's nothing worse than being locked in the gun strike animation and just getting railed from the side from a damn, you know, Tyranid warrior. So putting this on is going to save you from that, all right? Then we have Conviction. So when your armor is fully depleted, you take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. And lastly, guys, Honed Precision. Equipped weapons maximum spread decreases by 25% when firing without aiming. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap up my S-tier heavy class build using the Heroic Heavy Bolter. This setup is all about sustained pressure, survivability, and making the most out of the heroic perks by pairing them with the right heavy class perk tree choices. If this build helped you out or gave you something new to try, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what builds you want to see, all right? I'll be testing out more heroic weapons and builds, so stay tuned. And guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.